All right, Joyce. So thanks for coming on the podcast and letting me interview you and talk to you about all the stuff you do and help people with money. But
Thank
before we get
you.
started, no, you're welcome. Before we get started, maybe go back to, kind of where you grew up, what your background is. And I know you have an interesting story and actually a little bit of a motivational story in terms of what you went through and where you got to where you are. So let's go backwards. So where you grew up and
Okay. So
okay.
yes, so I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Okay.
So born and raised there. I actually went to Rutgers University. So I stayed in Jersey for college,
Okay.
and then got married, moved to California. And
Oh,
so I was living in California for a bit, and that's really where my journey to speaking and to being a transformational speaker and coach came from. So I'll tell you what happened there. I was
and that was
actually,
that was when? So you graduated college, you're like 21, 22, right? And then you got married.
yeah,
So at what age did you move to
yeah.
California?
I moved to California 2000. Let's see, my son was born 2003, probably about 2005-ish is when I moved there.
Oh, so you guys already were
2005,
married, had a child,
2006.
and then moved
Yes.
out there. What brought you out to California?
Yes. So I was married at the time. And so then my husband at that time was opening a branch, so an investment branch. He
Got
was
it.
with a firm. And so
Okay.
then I moved over with him after a year being here in New York because I wanted to continue my career. And so, yeah, after being a year apart, I moved over to
Oh, so you
California.
stayed here for a year and then he went to
Yeah.
start the office and then
Yep.
you went and joined him. Okay. All right. Yeah,
I
that's
did.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah, making it work the distance.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because then when we're together, that's when it didn't work.
Yeah, right. Distance, maybe maybe that helps getting
Distance helped
separated.
it.
Exactly. All right. So you said that was like
So,
'06.
yeah. Yes, yes. So
Okay.
then I was in California, purchased a property. Obviously, what happened come 2008. It was
Yeah.
the
All over
recession.
the country, right?
Yeah, so it was a financial crisis. There was, real estate was just crushed.
Right.
And so during that time, I think was the hardest time of my life because I was in the banking industry, so I didn't know whether I was going to have a job or not.
Right.
Banks were falling apart.
Yeah.
Washington Mutual, one of the biggest
That's who you
banks,
were
just
with?
no. I actually
Oh,
was with Citi, and
okay.
so
Yeah, I
then
remember Washington. Was Citi the one that bought them? Or was it another
Chase.
bank? Chase, right? I knew it was another.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was sitting and we were wondering, like, okay, hey, are we going to have a job? So it was a tough time, but on top of what was going on, I mean, my property was slashed in less than half. That
Right.
was so sad to see. But also, I was going through a divorce. And it was a really tough time for me. I had my son as well, and he was probably about, I think, like about 7 or something at that point. And so during that time, I felt like my whole life was just kind of falling apart
Right. Sure.
because there's recession, there's
Yeah. Things
all
you
this
can't control,
uncertainty,
right? Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden, my marriage is going, and this whole picture that you have, right, of how your life should look like
Right.
is crumbling just fast,
Right.
right? So during
And we
that
kind of grow
time,
up thinking like things are just going to stay on the same path, right? You never,
yeah,
and you deal with these things, I think you come
yeah,
out of
and,
it in a
and
good side, but
And in my opinion, really, you're kind of sold this whole white picket fence mentality, this whole
yeah,
dream,
the American
and
dream, right?
yeah, and no one tells you that the American dream is kind of a facade,
Yeah.
behind that smoky mirror, there's a
Right.
lot of
Well, there's
shit
a lot of
going
things
on.
supporting the dream. And if those things collapse
Right,
beyond your own control, it just, dissipates.
right,
Like people saw all their values disappear,
right. And
you
then
know?
just one thing has to collapse. Just one thing has to collapse, and then it becomes like a domino effect of
Yep.
stuff
Big
happening,
time.
and no one tells you how to deal with that stuff.
Right.
And so yeah, so I was going through that, and one day I actually I go to work and the electricity goes out. So never has happened
This
before.
is at a branch location?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so the electricity goes out, never has happened before. And I'm like, all right, I mean, hey, I guess I'll just use my time wisely. I'm going to walk over and get a cup of coffee. So I leave, walking across the street to get a cup of coffee, and I get hit by a pickup truck.
Oh my God. You
It
were
is
walking. You weren't in a car.
walking. I was not in a car. No.
Oh,
And I remember the two just ideas that kept going through my head, the two thoughts that kept going through my head. The number one thought, the first thing that came into my mind was this it? Was
yeah.
that all to my life? Like, I felt like there was so much more that I was put here to do and I hadn't
Of
done.
course. You start evaluating. Did you get thrown by the
I
truck?
actually fell onto it
Like
and I held
rolling
on.
onto the, oh, well, that's probably
Yes,
good, right? You
it
could have
was
gotten
really
thrown and
good.
landed on your head.
Absolutely. Or I could have gotten under
Yeah.
the pickup truck, but I actually landed onto it
Right.
and I held on for dear life. But anyway, that was a whole nother story.
That's a good reflex. I mean, it's just right. It's just a reaction. Your reaction could have been to just fall apart and you get run over. Instead, you
Yeah.
held onto the truck.
I held on
Oh.
and and I remember thinking that, like, oh my God, is this it? Was
Yeah.
this it to my life? And I just realized that I hadn't found my purpose. I hadn't even gotten there.
Right.
And then the second thought that went through my head was, and this is after when I'm like there lying on the ground, knowing I'm alive,
Now
waiting
at
for
what age were you at
paramedics.
that point, Joyce?
This was 2008-ish. So what's that been, like 11 years now?
Yeah.
Has it been what, even more maybe now? Yeah. So
Oh,
that
so you're
was
young.
yeah, I'm
Yeah. So
42 now.
yeah.
So
Okay. So you're
I
30.
was like 30 something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty young. And so I remember the second thought was, what kind of morning did I have with my son that day?
Of course. Now, was that
Because
you woke up in the hospital or you were conscious when this?
no, I was conscious.
Oh, okay.
I was conscious. And so I remember thinking, like, wondering what type of morning I had had with my son that day. Because in a single mom household, it's crazy. You
Yeah,
know,
of course.
it's just, and the mornings are the toughest. And I couldn't remember whether I had been so stressed out that I had made him cry that morning,
Right.
because,
You
we
just
had
got
a
to
lot of
rush him out.
that.
Come on, we got to get going. Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Yeah. Rushing him
Yeah.
out and like, okay, let's go. And then he'd cry. Or if I had had a good morning, and I knew that my son hugged me every morning when I dropped him off, but I couldn't remember it.
Right. Of course.
And that really did something to me, because it made me realize that I was just going through the motions in life,
Right.
that I
Well, a
was
lot of us do
sleepwalking
that,
through
right?
life.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to not remember the hug from the person you love the most in the world really tells you something.
That bothered you, huh?
Yeah, it really did. And so there is where my journey began, where I realized, you know what, I'm here for something more. And I'm just going through the motions in my life. And I'm just going through this script that we're taught by society of what your life should look like, what you should be doing,
Of
you know,
course. Well, that's
versus
it's
really following
expected.
what I wanted.
Now, what kind of
Yeah.
injuries did you have?
So I had, it's so funny because you're a lawyer and it's like, those are the kind of questions.
No, I'm not that kind of a lawyer, but I'm picturing you like laying on the ground or on the hood of this car. You're thinking like, oh my God, is my life over here? Or did I kiss my son? Which is probably exactly what I would think about my children.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking you're seriously injured. So,
I'm
what
picking
happened?
on you, Mitch. I'm picking on you.
I mean, you weren't unconscious, so that's good.
Yeah, that is great. So I actually, I felt, so I had some, injury to like my head. I had broken a wrist, tailbone. I messed up my knee. So it was just like
so
stuff
you had
that,
some injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was an interesting journey, because it was so much during that time that really made me question a lot, not only in my life, but then I questioned my faith and I questioned everything.
Yeah, you had a whole paradigm shift, right? Was the guy drunk or was it just an accident?
No, he was just an older gentleman. And I swear to you, like I was screaming at the top of my lungs and he's looking around for who's screaming. And the person screaming is like on his trunk. So,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. So yes, he was an older gentleman.
Okay. Well,
Maybe, I don't know what the deal was with him.
right.
So yeah, so then that was really what got me started on this journey. And then I started looking for, hey, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing?
Like while you were recovering, you were looking?
No, recovery time
How
was
long
this
did that
time
take?
where I think I was out for like 3 months.
Oh,
And then
okay. Well,
just
that's
that whole time where I was, figuring stuff out was years. Like it took
right.
me
Oh,
years. I mean, my whole life had changed by
yeah.
that point,
So you
you
started
know?
really kind of questioning things and re-looking things and reevaluating things, but it wasn't like 4 months later, you're like, I'm doing it. I'm going to change this. You like thought about this
No,
for a
this
long
was,
time,
yes, it
questioning
was a
things.
journey. It was
Yeah.
a journey. Yeah. There was a lot to think about. There was the divorce, and
Oh, that
whether
wasn't
that
even over
was,
yet, right?
no,
Yeah.
no, that took a while too. And so, and, did I want to stay in California? Did I want to leave? I ended
Right.
up leaving. So there was a lot going on
Right.
in
Because
my
we're talking
life.
on Zoom, but you're in New Jersey again, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I'm in New Jersey. So it was an interesting journey. And then from there, how I started kind of just getting into, because I'm a money mindset mentor, right? And so how I got into this money thing is, obviously I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. But I think the biggest thing that helped me was seeing the many clients that I've been able to help by shifting their mindset. And what helped me do that is that during that time that I was just redesigning my life, I left California. I actually sold my house at a loss,
Right. Because the
right?
market was in the toilet.
Exactly.
Right.
Sold my house at a loss and sold everything in it in a garage sale for like pennies on the dollar.
Right.
And all I had was a car, my kid in the backseat, and a cooler. And that's it.
That was
And
it. You had some
that
clothes and
was
that
it.
was it. Yeah.
Yep. And I drove to New
You
Jersey
drove
and
across country at that point?
yep, drove cross country with my son. And I came to New Jersey, and the fastest thing I could find and what I could afford at that point was this little studio the size of a dorm room. So imagine, how I felt. I felt like a loser
Yeah.
because I had gone from being married, beautiful house in California, to back to Jersey City in this tiny little apartment with a kid. And I felt like, what the hell has my
Right.
life come
But
to?
you're jumping ahead. This didn't happen in weeks after the
No,
accident. So
no.
what happened? So take me through, you told me, okay, now that day you started thinking about things. So take me through the process of what happened in terms of, how you came to those conclusions. What, because you're talking years. It took you a couple of years to get to the point where you literally walked away,
Yeah.
came back here, and now it's 20 years later. But I wanted to know what kind of happened during that period of time in terms of your thinking, if you can remember it all.
So I remember being upset with God during that
Okay.
time,
Yeah.
and then just kind of saying,
Like, why did this happen to me? Right.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Like, what do
like
you deserve to do? You didn't do anything wrong,
WTF,
right? Yeah,
like what
exactly.
the F, here. And why did I deserve this? I'm in the middle of the divorce. I've been a good person. Why is this happening to me?
But doesn't life do that
And
to you? Like, there's no fairness in life. Like, things happen randomly. Somebody beats you over the head with a 2x4, and
yeah,
it's not like you're like, well, I've been a good person. I've done all good things.
yes,
It doesn't work that way, you know?
right,
Yeah.
right.
And
It
it's difficult
doesn't.
to come to that, to
It is
accept that
very
with all
hard
of
to
us,
accept
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and this whole belief, like God, I believe in you and I'm doing the right thing. And I remember, one of the biggest things with this, and it's funny because I'm talking to a lawyer here, but like one of the biggest issues with this case was that there was someone that had told the cops that I wasn't in the crosswalk. I
But
was
you
in the
were,
crosswalk.
right.
And the person that was in the crosswalk with me left the scene.
So they weren't
So
there.
they did, yes. So they did not get any statement from her.
And once he
And
hit you, you
so
were no longer in the crosswalk, right? Because
exactly,
got it.
because I had been on the car, but then
Right.
it's like, oh, that's hard to
Looked like
believe.
you
You're
weren't
like,
in there, right?
right.
Yeah.
So then looking for a lawyer that would take the case when everything on the police report was looking like it was against me
Right.
was tough.
Yeah, because
And
these guys do
so
it for money. They want a case they can win.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Right.
so, that, and then I lost the case. I
Oh, you
got
did?
barely anything from that case. I
Really?
mean, yes, I didn't get enough to even pay for the expenses that I had
Oh,
incurred during that time. And so that's why I was angry. I was like, what the hell, man? I was doing the right thing. And then
right.
everything
Minding
is
your own
looking
business,
right. Everything's going against me, and you're supposed to be on my side, God, and you're not on my side. And I had people that said, hey, you want me to say you were in the crosswalk and I was in a car, and I will do that for you. I will lie. And I had to say, no, I
Right. Of
don't
course not.
want that type
Right.
of, way for me to do this. I really believe that God's going to come through, or the universe is going to come through, or whatever. And when I didn't see that kind of panning out, I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, why
Yeah.
is this happening to me? And so I went through this whole belief system, this whole, reflection of like, all right, what is this about? What are you trying to teach me? What am I learning from this? And so I just started kind of seeing things in a completely different way. It was maybe, I don't know if it was a month or maybe a couple of weeks or something after that had happened to me, someone else also got hit on the same avenue and died.
Different guy.
Different person,
Yeah.
yes. And I remember thinking that could have been me,
Of course. Very
but
easy.
I'm
That's why I
here.
asked you about your injuries. Yeah. I would think you'd be
Right.
seriously injured. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, so that was a sign. Then I went to therapy one time and I saw this, girl there, and she was in a
Psychological
wheel.
therapy or physical therapy?
No, physical therapy.
PT.
And I
Okay.
saw this, I was waiting in the waiting room, and this girl was there, and she, seemed like she had been healthy at some point, but now is in a wheelchair, could barely speak. And I saw her family saying, hey, grandpa's going to come visit. Do you remember when you guys used to, talk?
Oh,
And
she was in bad
and
shape.
yeah, she was in really bad shape.
Yeah.
And so it made me just, start reflecting and say, Joyce,
Maybe you're
this
lucky,
was,
right?
yes, like
Yeah.
this was a blessing.
Right.
And
Maybe he
you
did
could
protect
be
you.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the whole mindset shift began.
It's all about mindset.
So,
Yep.
yep, it is
Yep.
all about mindset. And so that's where I just started seeing things in a different route. Right. And then looking at my relationship and realizing, yeah, am I staying in a relationship because I'm supposed to stay in a relationship, because I'm supposed to do this as a mother, because I'm supposed to not get divorced? Or am I staying in this relationship? Do I want to stay in this relationship because I love the person and because he loves me? And that became very clear that I was staying in it and he was staying in it because
The wrong reasons.
just, yeah, the wrong reasons. And so that started kind of like saying, you know what, I need to go forward with this, and I need to move on this. And so that
Did you
whole
quit your
time
job too? Or did you?
I had to leave that location. And what I did is I talked to my superiors, which they were not supposed to do this for me, but they did. I talked to them to transfer me to a
So
location. So
you
then I
could
had
go
to
to New
come to
Jersey
New
with a
Jersey.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
Yes.
easier, at
Or
least.
at least with the possibility of one, because I
Right.
had to come here and I had to interview
Oh,
again.
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
But you had your foot in
Yeah.
the door because, right.
Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
limits your risk. It
So
doesn't eliminate it, but
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It definitely limited it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all of that time was just this whole figuring things out and seeing what it is that I needed to change in my life.
So you said that was like '08 where the accident happened. So this is like 2012 that you come back here, roughly 12,
No, it was
13.
actually probably maybe 2010, I
Oh,
would
okay.
say.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't that. No, I made some decisions were pretty fast.
Okay.
And so, yeah, things started to get really, I'm going to call it interesting during the
Yeah.
divorce proceedings. And so it just became a time where I couldn't stay there because it was way too toxic for
Right.
myself and my son.
But
And
now
so
your ex-husband, he was willing to let you go with your son back to Jersey?
Oh no,
You fought your
things
tooth
don't
and nail.
happen. Yeah,
Right.
things don't happen that easily when you're in the
Right.
middle of a divorce. But I figured out a way. Like everything just aligned
Just fell into
with,
place, huh?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, everything just fell into place. And so that's where, I came back, and then I barely, like, look, I'm living in this tiny little apartment, like size of a dorm room. Barely, I didn't have really anything to my name,
Right.
because I had lost my house. I had, used up my savings. It was hard enough trying to pay daycare bills by myself. My ex at that time, during the divorce, he was like, okay, you know what? If I'm out, I'm completely out. There's no financial help. And
Right.
so I was really doing everything on my own. And so, in the matter of maybe 5 years, I'm going to say 4 to 5 years, I quadrupled my income. I, increased my assets, like went from nothing to having an investment property to, having a very good amount in savings, paying any debt off. Everything changed for me. I got my master's in business administration as
Okay.
a single mom. I had a great relationship with my son, and I was happier, and I had figured out my purpose, right? And so that was that
What
time.
changed for you? Like what
Mindset.
it was? Do you think it was the way you looked
That
at
was it.
things? Now
The
you were at the bank
way
this
I
whole
see
time or no?
things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I had come over here, interviewed, chosen a spot, and I had gotten a couple of offers, chosen a spot, and then, started working there and had to really rebuild everything.
Okay. Well, good for you. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's, for me, it was such a game changer. And that's when I realized how much your perspective on things and how much, mindset really can change your life, because that was the only thing, everything that I was going through, and my just circumstances were shitty. They were really shitty.
Right. Very much so.
Right? But
Yeah.
how do you get through that? And it's really how you see things and the things you do, the habits, the processes you put into place.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they weren't as shitty as the next person that got hit in the crosswalk and died.
My
So
God, no,
everything's
no,
relative. Okay. So,
exactly.
all right. So take me through the journey then. You're in the banking business. You're working in a
hmm
branch or whatever. How did you start discovering what you do now
Because I was helping clients. So I became a financial advisor.
with the bank?
And so, yep,
Okay.
yep. And so I began seeing just how people deal with money from a different perspective. So I was in leadership before. And so I knew how to figure out people from the sales perspective, right?
That you were
So,
managing them,
right, I was
basically.
managing sales teams.
Okay.
And so I knew about that part of it, but I hadn't really spent time with people on looking at exactly their finances to a deeper level and understanding how they're positioning their money, understanding why they're positioning it that way. And I began seeing this trend of people and how they reacted to money based on their belief systems versus based on what you tell them to do.
Right. Like it doesn't
So
follow logic.
doesn't,
Right.
if you really think about it, everything you need to know about money is on Google. You can Google that shit. But
It's true though. Uh, it's
but
true.
people still don't figure it out.
Right. Because it's a very emotional topic. People make emotional
Absolutely.
decisions and generally they're bad.
Absolutely.
That's why we make bad marital
Absolutely.
decisions. That's why we make all
Yes.
kinds of bad emotional decisions.
Yes. Yes. Money's a very emotional thing. And then we forget that there's a script that is playing out in our mind with everything in life.
Right.
With relationships, there's a script. There's a
Right.
script that you saw when you were a kid that told you what to expect about relationships
Right. The
and how
problem
to
with that
view
is someone else
relationships.
wrote that script, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And the same exact thing is with money. And this is what I realized, is that there is a script that's been taught to you from your parents, from
Right.
your experiences, from society that relate to money. And you are living out that script and you don't even know you're living that script out because it's a subconscious
It's
thing.
true. If you generally have trouble with money or you associate bad things with money, it's because of the things you were taught by your parents, your grandparents, or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Religion is another thing. Yeah.
Right. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just kind of sit in the car. We're a passenger in life sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be. Right. You
Right.
could
You
take the
definitely don't.
driver's
No, it's a
seat.
conscious decision, right?
Yes,
If you become
definitely.
conscious of it, and that's what you're doing.
There you go. And
Okay.
I'm helping people do that.
Yeah, definitely self-awareness and consciousness is like it's like the thread in life. Like anything that, and anybody I've interviewed or anything that I've dealt with, whether it's coaching or business, whatever, it's always being self-aware. Even if you're in management, right? Being
Right.
self-aware of how you're treating people, or how they're reacting to you, or how you're saying things. You don't hear it. All that, it's all self-awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely is. And that's step number one. It's
Right.
going to be self-awareness. And then step number two is going to be, what am I going to do about it? What can I do?
Right,
You
if you're
know?
willing to. So you kind of started
Yeah.
realizing this when you switched over to the financial advisory side, which
Yeah.
is really sales, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Completely
then
sales.
from working with people, you started realizing this?
Yes. Working
Okay.
with people, seeing people bring me, 3 million in inheritance, and then all of a sudden, have almost nothing in 3 years, regardless of me saying, hey, don't do this. Hey, position it this way. Doesn't
Right.
matter. They have a certain financial thermostat. It is set at that temperature,
That's a good
and you are
term.
going to continue to go back to that temperature.
That's a Joyceism. Yeah. It's like weight, right? You have like a metabolic, you have a weight, you're like set, your metabolism's at a set point. And if you
Yeah,
don't move that set point, you're always going to end up back there,
exactly. And you got to
Usually it's
move
too
it.
high. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But to move it, you're going to have to do something seriously different.
Right.
You can't do the same stuff that you've been doing for years. And that's exactly what it is with money. I like that, actually. That's pretty good, Mitch.
What, the analogy?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. And let me tell you something. I deal with a lot of financial advisors. I mean, across the board, insurance companies, wirehouses, all over. And nobody really. I mean, maybe they say this to their clients, but I don't think so. In
Yeah.
terms of talking
No.
about like, okay, you have to think about money differently if you want this to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. When I started noticing with financial advisors, obviously, because I'm one, right? So I started noticing we don't take this information and help our clients this way. We try to help clients, and financial advisors try to help clients to say, hey, you know what, based on, what you want, your goals, blah, 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 this is what it would be the best portfolio for you. And then if you're going to be selling, I'm going to talk you off, the ledge. That is all great stuff. But looking at it in a deeper level, where you start noticing, wait a minute, this is the pattern. This is their money personality. This
Right.
is what I need to figure out and gear them, this direction, because that's what their money personality and their subconscious belief system is beginning to tell them to do. So switching that for them is a
Because
totally
they're going to
different view.
sabatage themselves.
Yes, that's exactly what people do.
Yeah,
They sabotage.
they do that.
Yep.
And you had come, but basically you had, and then you had nothing, and then you came back and you built it up, so you realized that you changed
Absolutely.
your mindset about money and how you look.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't remember for the life of me, but there's a book I read years ago. And it was all about that, about how you feel about money and how I got to figure it out now that you and I are talking, but how you feel about money and the baggage that you get from your life experiences with relatives or family or parents or whatever about money affects how successful you can be. Like
Yeah.
you said, there's a temperature you're at, that your temperature was set X, and you're never going to get over that until you recognize that this is someone else's, baggage. This is
Yeah.
someone else's script, not yours. It doesn't have to be yours.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's exactly it. And then as soon as you find what book it is, you got to let me know. So then that way I can.
Well, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I'm going to have to do it. That was a long time ago. I might have been 20, 25 years ago, but okay. So, but it's interesting because you're in an environment, not just at a bank, but in an industry that drives their salespeople to basically sell products, right? I mean, there are some financial planning fees or whatever, but
yeah,
very few of them are coaching people. I mean, you're in a regulated environment with a license and things like that. So how did you kind of pivot? Because do you do more like coaching and mentoring than you do
yes
financial product sales?
Financial absolutely. Now I do. So my business, I'm an entrepreneur. So my business now is money mentoring and mindset mentoring. Really, that's the big thing. It's so I've helped
You're
people
on
with
your
their,
own. You're not with the bank anymore, right?
yeah, I'm actually full-time still
With
and
the bank?
part-time entrepreneur. Yep.
Okay. But so
Yeah.
the mindful coaching money thing, I forget what you
Completely
just,
separate.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
And you just disclose that the bank knows
Yeah.
and you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, so on my business side, that's what I do. I go hone in on that. I help people with the coaching piece where it's okay, for example, I've had people come to me and say, for some reason, my sales just can't go past this, you know, and so there's a mindset shift you're needing there. There's a perspective shift and there's a process shift, right? So I look at, okay, hey, let's look at the process. Let's look to see what you're saying. Let's look at what perspective you're seeing this in. And so that's something that I help with. The other piece is like people that have money blocks, or like, let's say women. It's a big thing with women.
Okay.
They'll say, you know what, I'm divorced now. He used to be the one doing all of the
Bill paying or
finances, and
whatever.
I
Right.
have no idea what I'm doing. Or, hey, everything that just life handed me right now has just killed my confidence. I really don't have much confidence with this, with money.
Right.
I have another example is, women that they're making money, but for some reason they're not saving much, and they can't figure out, okay, what the heck am I
Where's
doing?
my
And
money going?
how do I handle this better? How do I position myself better? And so that's something else I do. So I not only look at, okay, let's look at your belief systems, but let's look at the process that you're practicing right now and what we need to change.
Does that involve budgeting and things like that? I mean, you get that involved?
Yeah, I get involved. And I don't like to call it budgeting because no one likes to budget.
Yeah, budget's it is. It's a depressing,
It's
uncomfortable
depressing.
process where you basically
Yeah, it's
reveal
like,
something you already know, right? You already know you're
yeah,
misspending your money, you're overspending your money, you're buying too many coffees a week. You don't want to lay it
yeah,
out on a spreadsheet and go, ugh.
exactly.
Yeah,
And we
that
got to cut this, it's like
right.
budgeting. No one wants to budget. But if I sit with you and I look at what you're spending on and I see a pattern, and I see, oh, okay, there's an emotion behind your spending. And typically that's what we do. We're
Right.
spending for
It
emotion.
makes us
We're
feel
not
good, right?
exactly. And so what's the emotion that you're trying to elicit from this
Struggling, you get a
spending?
bonus, you go out and you spend all the money because you've been struggling for so long that you're like, I'm buying a new car or whatever it is, how big your bonus is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a concept behind it. There's this belief system behind that. There's an emotion that you're trying to create. And so, perfect example, you see people, driving Maseratis and driving, Mercedes Benz. And then I look at their numbers and I'm like, what the F are you
Right.
doing
They should not
driving that
have
type?
this
You
car.
should not be
A lot
having
of people
this.
do that, right?
Right. But what's behind that? What's behind that is this emotion of feeling important. This
Right.
emotion of feeling like, you know what, I want to fit in. I want to be special. I want to be, this, put this facade out there because that is what I've been taught
Right.
I need to do to be loved, So
Yeah.
there's this
My friends in
whole,
California tell me that that's very common out there. People
oh
have a
yeah,
little
it is.
house and a Porsche 911 Target top so they can drive down the beach and feel good about themselves. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but your
Yeah.
car payment's bigger than your mortgage. That's what they do.
Right. Yeah. So it's like silliness like that, but there's emotion behind it that you're trying to elicit. And that is where I'm looking at, okay, if you're spending, then what is this emotion? How can we create this in a different way?
Right.
And that's what I help people with.
So are you dealing with individuals and you're dealing with business owners like entrepreneurs and people
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And
Mhm.
they're not always your financial clients?
No, no, I keep it completely. Church and state is separate. I do not, to be quite honest with you, I do not want to invest your money. I want to actually help you with the coaching piece of it. I can look at your numbers. I can say, hey, you know what? This is what I would be doing. And you should shift it around like this. But when they say, hey, Joyce, can you invest for me? I probably will say no. I can guide you to someone else, but I don't, I actually am really enjoying what I'm doing. And I
You're
don't
doing more and
foresee
more of
myself.
that than you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
You want to do this
yeah.
100%.
I want to
Then
do this more.
yeah, yeah. That's good. So, and you said more of your clients are women than men now?
Yeah, yeah.
Just because
I do
that's
have
the niche, or you
men
think,
clients.
yeah, well,
I do have men clients, but I don't know. I think maybe it's I don't know. I'm under the impression that it's women. They get to the point where they realize and they admit that they need help. Men are a little bit more like, yeah, no, I could do this
we're
myself. Let me
tough
just read
guys. We
this
don't want to
book.
say anything, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
let me
I
read
think
this
also
book.
women
Let me
like
ask
to
my
work
friends.
in general with other women a lot of times,
True, but you'd
you know?
actually be very surprised. When, as a financial advisor, one of the things that I actually see is I see women, they would, let's say they get divorced, right? And they're so accustomed to dealing with handling their finances, their husband, right?
Right. A man
Who do you think, yup, who do you think they're going to trust more
is a
subconsciously? The
male,
A
the financial
male.
advisor.
Yep.
Interesting.
So typically I see women gravitate towards men because they feel safer that way, because
Yeah.
that is what they've been taught, that, that is the person that can handle money, not women.
We
So
got to
very
change that,
interesting.
right?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
There's a lot of psychology behind
There's
the
a
decisions
lot of
that we make.
psychology.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So, do you do a lot of public speaking?
Yes, I do.
You do? So what kind of groups are
Yeah.
you speaking to these days?
So recently I've been doing virtual
Right, obviously.
conferences, and
Yeah.
obviously a lot of it is women's conferences.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of did we meet at like the Jabo or something?
No,
No?
we met with networking with Sid.
Oh, through Sid's event. Yeah. Before this, I
Hmm.
was at his Switch event he had before this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I couldn't
Sid's
make
always
it
doing
today.
stuff. But I've spoken I can't keep track of anything anymore. I've because I've spoken to Jabo. I did something for the professional organizers, which were
Uh-huh.
mostly women, not all, but mostly women. I'm doing a seminar for Score on podcasting.
Oh,
I
that's so
did the podcast
cool.
one for Score, and then I'm doing a business one for them too. Yeah.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
cool.
I've been speaking a lot of that kind of stuff because people want to learn how to like market and do other content driven things for their business. So
Absolutely. And podcasting is a wonderful one.
yeah, if you like to talk, I mean, if you
Yeah.
don't, then don't, if you don't like to be on video, don't be on video, but it really depends on what they want to do. So tell me about the things that you see, like the patterns that you see in terms of the bad decisions that people tend to, we won't say make, we'll say gravitate to, right? With
When
their
it comes
money.
to money.
Yeah.
So bad
I mean,
decisions.
first on the on the personal side, and then also on the business side, like bad business decisions. There's got to be a
Okay.
separation too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So on the personal side, I think that actually this is both personal and business. One
Okay.
of the things that I'm seeing that is just driving me freaking crazy is the ostrich syndrome. That's what I call it. I
Okay.
coined it the ostrich
Yeah.
syndrome,
Sticking your head
right?
in the sand.
Sticking your head in the sand,
Right.
acting like nothing's happening, acting like, oh yeah, everything will work out. It is so funny how we are so damn optimistic when it comes to when we have to make a change. We're so optimistic of how things are going to work.
Right.
But when, it comes to something different, let's say trusting someone to help you, then we're pessimistic, right?
Right. Right.
And so that to me is just, that I think is a big issue when people don't just say, okay, enough of this
This is
bullshit.
not working. Right.
I'm going to stop ignoring the situation and begin doing something about it. Because no matter what, if you are going to ignore the situation, you're going to have to deal with it at some point. It's
Right.
just going to get hairier and
Worse.
nastier later on
Right.
when you have to deal with it a year from now or whatever.
So I think we become so attached to what we thought was the best decision to make that it's difficult for us to say this is the wrong decision. And then what we'll do is saying, well, if I hold on longer, this will come back. We'll fix this. I'll break even. Then I can sell the company. I can move on, or my investments will come back. And it's lost time. It's not going to come back. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a bad
Right.
decision now, it will be a bad decision then. You just got to
Yeah.
lick your wounds and move forward.
Yeah. And I think that that's what people don't realize. They don't think like, okay, you know what? I've tried this for X amount of time. It's not working. we got to shift now. And I
Right.
think that that's one of the things for entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And for entrepreneurs, it's one of the things that really this coronavirus made you realize. It made you realize, like, oh crap, I need to relook. I need
Yeah.
to relook at my business. I need to look at my business in a completely different light, because
Right.
now business is being done completely differently. And it's forcing you to see what's working and what's not working. And it's forcing you to
Yeah.
change the way that you've been doing business, because we get into a comfort zone and we don't like to get out of it.
Right. And I think that that's one of the good, like if there could be silver linings from the whole Corona thing.
Coronavirus.
One is that we've all met each other and you meet people you would have never
Yeah.
met before. And the other part is it's made people evaluate things. And I think made them, well, some people are going to go out of business, but some of the ones that
Yeah.
didn't and pivot, they're a little bit more resilient for, the next time around,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
money, like you said, like you can make bad decisions around money, but if you have cash flow, it hides a lot of things. Like it allows you to continue to make those bad decisions and say, it's not so bad. We got through today. We can get through tomorrow. It'll change in 2 weeks. But if it's dead, I mean, if it's just not happening, then you're forced to make decisions and you don't feel so bad about it. I think in this situation, like everybody was in it together. So
Right.
if you're like shutting down and you're going this and you're helping people there and you're borrowing money and everyone's doing it. So you didn't feel like, I hate to use the word, but you didn't feel like you were a loser or you were failing. You were
Yeah.
able to blame someone else. So I think ironically, it helps people, it forced people to make those decisions and say, well, this isn't my fault. So I could change because I have to change.
Right.
Almost gave them
Right. True.
permission to do this,
Yeah. True. Yeah. So it kind of just says, all right, you know what? Everyone's going through it. What are you going to do that's going to actually help you through this crisis, right? And so, do you want to be the person, and this is for both entrepreneurs and regular people too,
Right.
right? That don't
That
have
have
their own
jobs,
business.
right?
Yeah. Do you want to be the person that sits there and bitches about it?
Right.
Or do you want to be the person that takes this moment, seizes the moment, and says, I will do something different for my business. I will do something different for my life. I will
Sure.
not be this victim and allowing the world to do shit to me, versus me saying, I will make this time the
Right.
best
Being
time.
active versus passive. And the people that you see that are successful and pivoted that don't need my advice and don't need your coaching,
Right.
they immediately pivoted their businesses. They,
Right.
they changed what they were doing, whether it's providing PPE or adjusting their employees or, whatever it was, because that's their mindset. They weren't
Yeah.
like, well, how am I going to get through? Am I going to get through this? They were just like, how are we going to get through this? It's just a how, not
Yeah.
an if, for
Yeah.
those kind of people. And I guess you're trying to help people get there in their mind to be that, recognize that it's a how, not an if.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
how many people are you working with now? I mean, you don't work with them
Oh,
forever, hopefully, right? So
no,
you
that's not
coach them
therapy.
out of, yeah, right, exactly. Well, therapy's not supposed to be forever either, but I
It's
think
not supposed to be forever, but for
it ends
some
up being
reason,
that way.
it ends up being
Exactly.
forever.
Right.
If you have a bad therapist, I think it ends up being forever.
Right. That's the job, right?
Yeah.
To ruin, end their relationship with you. But so how long
Yep.
does people in general normally work with you?
I like to at least do 8 weeks. So
So
2 months
2 months.
worth of, yeah, 2 months worth of coaching. You need pretty much 8 weeks to really be able to make any type of shift.
Right. In terms of a
So
habit change.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
probably sometimes it's longer than that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's longer, but typically it's maybe 3 months max.
And do people check back in with you? Do you have group
Yes.
sessions? Do you,
Yeah.
whatever it is?
Yeah, so I have individual sessions and I have group ones. So there's one group one that I have that's going on right now, actually. It's called Bankroll Boot Camp.
Okay.
And so really that's 3 months of coaching and just taking you through this journey with your relationship with money. So it's looking at, the knowledge piece of it. What are the most
Right.
important numbers, really giving you control over your financial life. And then we move on to the subconscious belief systems. We try to find those and see what's working for you, what's not working for you, and shifting that right there so that doesn't hold you back anymore.
Okay.
Then we move on to the energy of money, because I do believe that there's energy around money, and the actions. It's the
Okay.
actions you got to take, because I'm not going to be in your life forever.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You want to teach people how to catch their own fish eventually,
Handle their
right?
own.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
They would be
So
dependent on you forever.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I have going on in a group program right now. And then I have the individual sessions. Sometimes people say, hey, you know what, Joyce, can I just have like a consultation with you? And you just kind of deep dive into my numbers and let me know what the heck is going on and anything I could shift. And I'll
Right.
do that too.
Yeah. And you've been doing this
Hmm.
so long, you've gotten very good at
I'm really good at really
seeing this
quickly.
stuff. And yeah, because you see the same
Quick.
patterns all the time.
Yep.
All right. Well, this will be coming out in the fall. So we'll be sure to put in the show notes links to your website so they can see what other programs are going on then. And, in terms of how to connect with you and sign up and get on your mailing list. I assume you're on all the social media platforms, right?
I am. If you look up the Joyce Rojas.
Okay. Because you are
So
the Joyce Rojas.
I am the Joyce Rojas.
Any of the other
There's
ones are
other Joyce
imposters.
Rojas's, but
Yeah,
but I'm
exactly.
the Joyce Rojas.
Nice. I guess I'm the Mitch Beinhacker. I'm sure there is no other. So
I don't know if there's any other Mitch
yeah,
Beinhacker.
there's other Beinhackers, but I haven't met any named Mitchell. So I don't think in my family tree that there's another Mitchell. But who knows? Maybe there is. So Joyce, I
Yeah.
appreciate coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank
Because
you.
I think that's helpful to people, and to understand where you came from, what you went through, and I'm sure there's other people out there that are maybe going through similar
Yeah.
things right now and trying to figure out and questioning, everything. I mean, it really, right? Those
Everything.
kind of experiences, life-threatening experiences, makes you question everything. I'm sure it's what creates a lot of agnostics where they're, culturally, the religion's part of their life, but they don't believe in, God and all the things of faith and, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it makes it a little tougher, but hey, if that's something, and if anybody listening to this, that's something that you're going through, please reach out to me, because that's what we're here for. We're really here to help each other out. And we see each other as this like separate source or separate being. We're not separate beings.
no,
We're really here for each other. And so if
right.
you're going through something like that, reach out to me, and then I'll see how I can help, or even if I can inspire you in some way, then we could talk for 20 minutes or something. It's fine.
Good. Okay, good. Well, I think that, it's ironic because we do need contact and connection and meet people and have friends and things like that. And that's what's hard about the whole coronavirus thing. But because of the time we live in and the technology, we're at least able to connect. Even though we're not able to touch each other, we're able to connect and meet and share ideas. And, someday we'll come out of quarantine and lockdown, I guess. Hopefully. It's going to be a rough year, though, I
Exactly.
think.
Yeah, I think it will be. But it's a perfect time. I mean, for all your entrepreneurs listening to me right now, it is a perfect time to redesign
Right.
your
Evaluate
business, and
things.
yeah, reevaluate, redesign, and really sit down with yourself and say, what the hell do I want from life?
Right. Like it's
Let's
okay to
let's
change what you're doing,
yeah,
right?
it's okay. So that we
Yeah.
talk about this pivoting thing, and it's like, all right, let's stop talk about pivoting, and let's talk about, like, let's look at our life. Let's look at not only what we've done with our business, but what do we want in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years? Because, obviously this taught us something, right? We can go, our wealth can go like that. Our health can go like
Yep.
that.
Like
So
that.
what do you want? What do you truly want out of life? Or are you living someone else's script?
Right.
Or
Right.
an old script that you thought you wanted, and now it's time for a different stage in your life?
Well, words of wisdom and words to live by. And I appreciate it very much. And I thank you for coming on. Let me,
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Joyce. Hold on a second.